It's time for Mornings at 8 with Jonathan Mark on AM 1480 WLEA.
Well, good morning. It is 5 minutes after 8 o'clock on May 1st, or 5 minutes after 8-ish. It's very close. So good morning. It's May 1st, kind of a cloudy, gloomy day out there, but it should be getting a little nicer, so that's okay. You know, as I said yesterday, on this program, I sort of have maybe a flight planned, sort of, and then it gets changed at the last moment, so nothing is in pen. Everything is kind of in pencil, okay? So this morning I'm sitting at my kitchen table having coffee, and I hear a story by Brian about the governor. Brian, do you have that story handy from this morning about the governor and ICE?
To play it on the air or just to read it?
Yeah, just read it, yeah.
Okay. It says, Governor Andrew Cuomo says he's going to sue ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, and has issued an executive order against ICE forbidding them from making arrests in New York State.
So, I think I use the word mind-boggling too much. I do. I got to stop using the word mind-boggling or the phrase, because I think of it, and I'm thinking that my mind probably spends half its time in a state of bogglement, because there are so many strange things going on. How could you prevent federal agents from enforcing federal law in a state, any state, New York? I mean, who knows? How could you possibly stop them from enforcing the law? And there was a statement from Congressman Tom Reed, a Republican of Corning, and he said, let me see if I could quote this. Governor Cuomo continues to put the citizens of New York at risk for his own gain. He says we are a nation of laws. By directing the state police to not cooperate with ICE and preventing ICE from arresting undocumented immigrants inside New York courthouses, our governor is showing an unacceptable disregard for the brave men and women of law enforcement. So let me this is May. So last month, Governor Cuomo issued a cease and desist letter to ICE, threatening to sue the federal agency if they don't put an end to what he refers to as unconstitutional enforcement actions. So he's directing state police to not cooperate with ICE. So I'm just speculating here. So could that mean a state trooper could get into it with an ICE agent? I don't know. We'll see how that goes. New York is certainly a very strange little state. Well, this is May Day, May 1st. And I did a little bit of research here. And, of course, some May Day celebrations date back to ancient Roman times, right? Okay. I guess in whatever culture, wherever you live, when the weather finally breaks and you have nice weather, as contrasted with the weather you've had for months, everybody wants to celebrate. So this goes back to like Roman times. But on a more local and modern level, May 1st is very important for labor. It is International Labor Day for workers here, for workers all over the planet. And the labor movement began sort of in a big way on May 1st in 1886. That's quite a long time ago. And it was a result of the Haymarket riot in Chicago, where workers all over the country gathered to protest what were horrible working conditions. I mean, working conditions are pretty good now. I mean, let's face it, it's pretty easy now by comparison with what it was, let's say, in 1886. It had to be terrible back then, and they got tired of it. And they wanted a maximum 8-hour work a day, 8-hour work day. Actually, that still hasn't happened because a lot of people work more than 8 hours now. But that's what they wanted, and they wanted a whole bunch of other things. And so they gathered, and a riot ensued. The cops came, and somebody somewhere threw a bomb. And that's what started this riot. A bunch of cops were killed, a bunch of protesters or labor people were killed, and it got really ugly real fast. And that went on for a couple of days. This wasn't like a one-day thing. This went on for days, the Haymarket riot in Chicago. So anyway, it's a big day for labor. And also, it's May 1st. As I said, May Day is, you don't want to go dancing around a maypole or anything, but it is kind of it's a beginning of sort of a summery, springy type season or something. Now, I'm going to do this only once, and I'll never do it again. I promise. This is the last word. This is the last word on this ever. But I had a little story yesterday about how I was driving down Route 21, and there was a crew working on some power lines or doing something or other. I don't know what they were doing something or other. And they had a bucket truck out there, and it was just a little bit in my lane, and so we had to go around it because that's right, the move over law. So I said, well, I wound up partially in the oncoming lane. The left-hand wheels, the driver's side wheels, wound up sort of in the oncoming lane, and there was going to be a head-on crash, and so I had to zip back into my lane and avoid this crash. And so I said, well, it's really hard to enforce this law. So, after the show, a very good, nice listener emailed from Alfred and said essentially, you dope. You dope. You've just misinformed your listeners. You don't have to move over. And I said, I don't know, did we have the move over law? And apparently, I don't know, she said that, no, you're wrong. You don't have to move over. So, doing my research as a good news guy here, I did a bunch of research on the move over law. As I said, this is the last time I will ever do this, I promise. So I went to the state police website. It doesn't really get any more authoritative than that. And it says on the official website, let me see, driver, I have it in front of me here. Drivers must use due care when approaching an emergency vehicle that displays red and or white emergency lighting. On all roads and highways, drivers must reduce speed. On parkways and other controlled access highways with multiple lanes, when approaching an emergency vehicle that displays red and or white emergency lights or a hazard vehicle displaying flashing amber lighting, drivers must move from the lane immediately adjacent to the emergency or hazard vehicle, unless traffic or other hazards exist to prevent doing so safely. Violation of this law is punishable as a moving violation. And so that's that. So let me see here. So you must kind of move over, sort of, must move from the lane immediately adjacent to the emergency unless traffic or other hazards exist to prevent doing so safely. Now, in my case, there was a guy right on my tail. And had I slowed, there's a chance I would have been rear-ended, which is not too much fun. So then I went to another website. I don't do things by halves here. There's a law firm in Syracuse. I'm not going to give their name, okay? So, hey, anyway, it's in Syracuse. And they had an article on the move over law, which began, I believe, in 2012. Except I don't have it in front of me, but I'm pretty sure it started in 2012. It said that, let me see. If it's not, okay, on multi-lane roads, drivers must move one lane away and leave a buffer space of one lane, according to this website of this law firm. If that is not possible, a driver must slow down to at least 20 miles an hour under the posted speed. And if you're on a two-lane road, you are to reduce your speed and move to the furthest left inside your lane, assuming that's practical, I just threw that in, inside your lane as you pass a stopped vehicle. So, there we are. And I suppose you can do what you want to do, okay? Just use your head when you're driving, and that's the move over law, and I'm taking that, and I'm filing that away. So that's it. That's the end of the move over law. Now, what else have we here? That's right. Oh, yes. This is a big story. And I could see that this is going to get pretty nasty pretty quick. Is the New York State Attorney General, Letitia James, has issued subpoenas as part of the investigation related to the NRA. Apparently, Ms. James is going after the NRA based on its status as a tax-exempt organization, a 501c3. So, there was an article in yesterday's Spectator, and it's at the bottom of the page. It's from the Associated Press, and the headline is Trump, NRA under siege by NY investigation. And the president said, well, here's the first paragraph. There you go. The National Rifle Association is under siege, President Donald Trump said Monday, in response to New York State's decision to investigate the organization's status as a tax-exempt nonprofit. And there we go. That's the first paragraph. And then it goes on. Let me see. The president said the NRA is under siege by Cuomo and the New York State AG, who are illegally using the state's legal apparatus to take down and destroy this very important organization, he tweeted. Now, Trump is very pro-NRA, and he's very pro-Second Amendment. And that, I think, is a pretty good idea. It being in the Constitution, the right to bear arms, the Second Amendment. So, and let me see. In a statement responding to Trump's tweet, James' office said she focused on enforcing the rule of law. And she said, this is a quote, "In any case we pursue, we will follow the facts wherever they may lead. We wish the president would share our respect for the law." Now, again, according to the story in the Spectator yesterday, but last year she had vowed to investigate whether the organization deserves its tax-exempt nonprofit status. And an NRA lawyer said Saturday it would cooperate with any inquiry into its finances. And the governor says that Trump has done nothing but tweet about gun violence. And then he went on to say, "Unlike you, New York is not afraid to stand up to the NRA. As for the NRA, we'll remember them in our thoughts and prayers." That's kind of a snarky comment. I mean, really, you have to admit, maybe you love Governor Cuomo, and he has done a lot for the Hornell area. I'll say that right. I know there are a lot of people out there, who just love Cuomo. That's fine. He's a great human being. And he has done a lot for Hornell. That is kind of snarky. We'll remember them in our thoughts and prayers. Okay, that's really good coming from a governor. That's pretty classic.
Can I jump in with an Albany overreach prevention law?
Overreach prevention law. Yeah. Okay. No, what's that?
Okay, here's what happened. Last year, a 7-year-old boy was selling lemonade at a little lemonade stand he put up at the Saratoga County Fair.
Okay.
And this hyper uptight Albany bureaucrat,
I can't imagine that. No, okay.
Yeah, came over to the lemonade stand and told him that he needed a license. So, State Senator Jim Tedisco, kind of a funny guy. I've talked to him before in the past.
Yeah.
Tedesco is getting a law passed exempting children from lemonade licenses.
Oh my, yeah. Well, hey, the kid needs a good lawyer. Pretty clear to me, he needs a lawyer. He needs an attorney. I'm not saying anything. I want my attorney. I'm not saying nothing here. Okay, so there you go. You got to love Albany. Now, there's also a story in this morning's Chicago Tribune, which was posted at 5:20, so about 3 hours ago, about 3 hours ago, and it's written by somebody Jonah Goldberg, and he writes a very good piece on the NRA. And the headline of the story is, "Will NRA become a casualty of the culture war?" And I'm not going to read the whole article because it's fairly lengthy, but a few quotes I think are worth passing on. He said, "The National Rifle Association has big troubles. It's wildly in debt. The Attorney General of New York, where the NRA was founded in 1871 and where it remains incorporated, is investigating the tax-exempt status of what she has called, in other words, the AG, what she has called, quote, a terrorist organization. I don't think the NRA is a terrorist organization. I'm not sure about that, but I don't think it would qualify as a terrorist organization. In fact, the NRA was the first civil rights organization in the country. There was no civil rights organization of any kind before the NRA. And that began in 1871, so it's been around for quite a long time. And it was started by two Union Army officers who had noticed that the Confederates tended to be better shots. And so they started the NRA way back in 1871. And in the 1930s, he goes on, it started to dip its toes into lobbying, but in favor of limited gun control. The NRA, for instance, supported the Federal Firearms Act of 1938, which established federal gun licensing requirements. And it wasn't until the mid-1970s, after passage of the Federal Gun Control Act, that new leadership at the NRA made lobbying for gun rights central to its mission. Now, I'm still quoting from this gentleman who's, what's his name, Jonah Goldberg in the Chicago Tribune this morning. He says, still, that mission was noticeably bipartisan. The NRA once supported candidates on either side of the aisle. How do you like that? In the 2000 campaign cycle, it spent $372,000 on some 66 Democrat incumbents. But by 2016, it contributed to just 4. And he asks what happened. And then he gives an answer. The easy answer is that as the GOP increasingly embraced gun rights, the Democrats embraced gun control. So which side, he asks, is guilty of policy extremism depends on your view of gun policy. Asking which side is guilty of rhetorical extremism is pointless, he says, because both are. The NRA is not a terrorist organization, but neither are its opponents a horde of anarchists, socialists, and goons, as the NRA's media arm often portrays them. So he says the NRA doesn't actually give very much money to politicians, at least compared with, say, organized labor or trial lawyers. What the NRA does do, he says, incredibly effectively, is organize and inform voters, mobilizing them to vote reliably for philosophically aligned candidates. He says now it's lobbying is now largely outsourced to special interest groups such as the NRA, but also Planned Parenthood for the Democrats. And these groups are motivated to get out the vote, but they're also incentivized to monetize the vote, in other words, raise funds. The net effect has been for these interest groups to go all in for the culture war, which is highly effective for fundraising, and take our elections with them. And then he goes on and on and on, but that's basically the gist of the story. And speaking of which, I think this is kind of interesting, is if the state AG, Letitia James, is investigating the NRA's status as a tax-exempt organization, 501(c), so too is Planned Parenthood. Planned Parenthood is a 501(c). And I have a lot of stories in front of me, but I can't find anyone here that indicates that she's also investigating Planned Parenthood and its status as a tax-exempt organization. Huh. That's odd. Kind of weird. Maybe I just can't find it. Maybe it is in front of me. I'm not quite sure. Okay, anyway, we are going to take a break, and we will be right back.
Season passes to Vanderview Golf Course are only $100. That's right, only $100 for unlimited play on one of the area's best golf courses. Enjoy 8 holes of golf all season long. Now's the time to play golf. Vanderview Golf is just a short drive away in Alfred Station. Call 607-587-9727, 587-9727 for pass information, or stop into Vanderview Golf, located at 1960 Water Wells Road in Alfred Station. Check out their Facebook page for more information, facebook.com/Vanderview-golf-course.
Okay, luckily I was not wool gathering during that little break there, which I normally am. Luckily I was listening. Of course, it's 9 holes of golf, not 8. Or you can think of it as, or buy 8 holes and get 9 free or something, or get 1 free. I don't know. Anyways, 9 holes of golf. Sorry.
From the Fox Business Network, Apple's iPhone sales and earnings both dropped in its recent quarter, though its report for the start of the year isn't all gloomy. Apple says it's starting to see sales improve in China, where customers are responding positively to lower iPhone prices and financing programs. Apple's bright spot, its business that includes app sales and streaming music subscriptions, jumped 16%. A federal judge has approved Tesla CEO Elon Musk's agreement with the SEC on how he can use Twitter. Musk will need to receive approval from Tesla attorneys before he can talk about company financial information. Sandwich chain Subway closed more than 1,100 locations last year. The New York Post says the closures were revealed in a company statement this week. The Dow was up 38 yesterday. The Nasdaq dropped 66, S&P up 2. With the Fox Business Report, I'm Jenny Cosola.
Hiring? Aren't you tired of hoping the right candidates see your job posts? It's like trying to find a needle in a haystack. But not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology finds and invites qualified candidates to apply. So instead of hoping you find that needle, ZipRecruiter finds it for you. And hiring is a whole lot easier.
4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter now for free by going to ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
New to golf or a seasoned veteran? You'll enjoy the casual, relaxed atmosphere of Vanderview Golf Course. 2 miles from downtown Alfred on Waterwells Road, Vanderview is a 9-hole executive-length golf course with a driving range on one side of the road and the course on the other. Family-friendly and fun recreation for everyone. You can walk the course or use a cart. And new this year, a season pass for only $100. That's a lot of golfing fun for a very little bit of money. Vanderview Golf Course, 2 miles from downtown Alfred on Waterwells Road.
And back we are. Okay, let me see. There's not a whole bunch of time, but I was going to do it Monday. Then I was going to do it Tuesday. I was going to do it this morning, and I guess I probably won't get to it until Friday. I was going to tell you about my epic contest to mark the first week of Mornings at 8. And while I don't quite have the contest ready, I do have the prize ready. And it's a grand prize of all grand prizes, but unfortunately I don't have time to tell you about it now. However, I can tell you about this. And this is it takes all kinds of people, and you wonder why people do the things they do. But this is from Fox News. And the headline is, Beehives in Texas Attacked, Set on Fire, Killing 500,000 Bees, officials said. And the story, dozens of beehives were attacked and set on fire in Texas over the weekend in an act, quote, beyond comprehension, close quote, that killed an estimated 500,000 bees. The bees were discovered Saturday morning, scattered across the bee yard in Brazoria County in Texas. And these hives were burned. They were drowned. 20 hives. There were 20 hives in all. Each colony averages 30,000 bees. And, bees are really important to the environment. And this creep, whoever it is, they're offering a fairly substantial award if they can find out who did it. He killed these bees. You're talking 500,000. Bees do jobs that, it's amazing. It really is. Nature is an incredible thing. Bees do a job that human beings cannot do. Bees are necessary to the environment. And I hope they find whoever did this. That's just totally, totally senseless. As I said, my mind spends half its time in a state of bogglement. Little personal anecdote here. When I lived in California, which I've talked about in the past, I lived in Fresno, and I worked in printing. Before I got into radio, I had a real job. I really worked. I worked in printing. I was a printer. And a friend of mine had also kept bees. He was a beekeeper, in addition to working in printing. So he asked me one time if I wanted to go help him with his bees, and I said, oh, sure. So we go out in the middle of the San Joaquin Valley in the summer. So it had to be air temperature about 103, maybe 103, 104. And I had nothing to do with bees ever in my life, so I put on this really heavy canvas suit with the hat and the screen and the gloves and all that stuff, and I'm out there helping him with these bees. So after an incredibly hot, long afternoon of taking these hives out and scraping the honey off and all that stuff, we're ready to go. So we get back into the truck, and we take off this beekeeper type garb or something in the truck. And I take off the one glove, and I don't know how this one bee got in there, but this one big bee was in this glove, and he stung me in the finger. And I go, wow, that really hurts. And my friend says, well, it's no big deal. He says, have you ever been stung? I said, well, no. And he says, oh, this should be interesting. We'll find out if you're allergic in like any second now. So I'm sitting there thinking, I'm going to go into anaphylactic shock 25 miles from the nearest hospital. This should be fun. It turns out I wasn't allergic. So that was my one experience with beekeeping. Okay, I'll see you tomorrow morning at 8:05-ish.